Curiosity drew Clara back to her grandparents' attic, but what she discovered there would shake her to the core. Hidden beneath layers of dust and forgotten memories, she found an old painting of a woman. An ancestor, as her grandmother later revealed, accused of witchcraft and unjustly condemned. The connection between Clara and this mysterious woman was undeniable. The piercing eyes of the portrait seemed to follow Clara, pleading for something more than just remembrance. This video dives deep into Clara's quest to uncover the dark secrets lurking within her family's history and how a single portrait could change everything she thought she knew. What would you do if a painting whispered forgotten truths? What if those truths were linked to your own destiny? Stay tuned to explore a journey through time where the past refuses to stay buried.
Behind the doors.
Clara stepped out of the car, feeling the humid heat of New Orleans envelop her body like a tight embrace. Her grandparents' house, an old wooden structure, displayed a weathered facade with windows tangled in yellowed lace curtains. There was something in the atmosphere that made her uneasy, a mixture of nostalgia and discomfort. The whispers of the city, the distant sounds of a jazz band, and the scent of spices lingered in the air, but all of it seemed distant, as if the house was isolated in its own world. "Come on, Clara," her grandmother called, appearing at the door with a warm smile, though her eyes carried a shadow of concern. "Come in, dear. The house is waiting for you." Clara forced a smile and approached. Her grandmother was a woman with white hair and wrinkled hands, who always seemed to know more than she let on. As she entered, Clara smelled the familiar scent of vanilla and cinnamon, but the feeling of being in a familiar place didn't comfort her as it should have. There was something heavy in the air, as if old secrets were hidden within the walls. After a few hours of conversations and memories, Clara decided to explore the house, looking for a corner where she could be alone. She climbed the creaky stairs to the attic, a place that had always intrigued her as a child. The door opened with a groan, revealing a dusty space filled with boxes and objects that seemed forgotten by time. The smell of mold was pungent, but Clara felt drawn to the mystical atmosphere of the place. As she rummaged through the boxes, her fingers found a canvas covered by a cloth. With a hesitant movement, she pulled the fabric, revealing an enigmatic painting. It was a portrait of a woman with long, dark hair and piercing eyes that seemed to follow Clara around the room. The woman's expression was both serene and sad, as if she was holding deep secrets. "Wow," Clara murmured, fascinated. "Who could you be?" She approached the painting, her fingers almost touching the surface of the canvas. The moment her touch met the painting, a wave of energy surged through her body. Clara recoiled, her heart racing. Those eyes seemed alive, pulsing with an intensity that left her both intrigued and frightened. "What's happening?" she whispered to herself, staring at the woman in the portrait. The feeling of connection was inexplicable, as if the figure was trying to tell the story of her life, a story Clara didn't yet know. A noise from downstairs interrupted her reverie. It was her grandmother calling her for dinner. Clara hesitated, unable to take her eyes off the painting. Part of her wanted to stay there, to dive into the mystery, but her grandmother's voice brought her back to reality. "Clara, come on, dinner's ready," her grandmother called again, and Clara, reluctantly, left the attic, casting a final glance at the woman in the painting. At dinner, Clara tried to focus on the conversation, but her mind was far away, lost in the eyes of the woman who seemed so familiar and yet so distant. She decided she would need to return to the attic later, to investigate the origin of the painting and, perhaps, uncover the secrets surrounding it. "What are you thinking, my dear?" her grandmother asked, interrupting her thoughts. "Oh, nothing, just exploring the house," Clara replied, smiling nervously. Her grandmother observed her with an expression that mixed concern and curiosity, but Clara looked away, already planning her next visit to the attic. Something inside her urged her to discover more, to understand the story behind the painting, as if destiny was calling her to unravel a mystery that transcended time and space. Clara was restless. After discovering the enigmatic painting in the attic, her heart pulsed with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Sunlight filtered through the windows of her grandparents' old house, casting dancing shadows on the walls, as if the very environment was whispering secrets. She decided she needed to talk to her grandmother about the painting, even if the idea made her nervous. Clara'S grandmother, Donna Alice, was in the kitchen, busy preparing lunch. The aroma of gumbo filled the air, a recipe she had learned from her mother and that had always been a symbol of comfort and tradition in the family. Clara approached, watching how her grandmother stirred the pot, her face illuminated by the soft light coming through the window. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" Clara said hesitantly. Donna Alice looked at her, with a gentle smile that concealed deep knowledge. "Of course, my dear. What's troubling you?" Clara took a deep breath. "About the painting I found in the attic. Do you know anything about it?" Donna Alice's expression changed instantly. She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "Ah, the painting. It was of a family friend, a very special woman. But Clara, it's not something to talk about lightly." "But why not?" "I feel there's something more there. The woman in the painting, her eyes. They seem to follow my movements," Clara insisted, the anxiety growing within her. "Sometimes what we see is not simply what it seems. There are stories we prefer to leave buried," Donna Alice replied, her tone now grave. Clara felt a chill down her spine. "You're telling me there's more to this story? What kind of story?" Donna Alice looked out the window, as if she could see beyond the horizon. She was a beautiful woman, but her life was marked by tragedies and mysteries. Many things that happened back then still echo in our family. "Grandma, I want to know. What happened to her?" Clara asked, determination igniting within her. Donna Alice closed her eyes for a moment, as if reliving old memories. Her name was Isadora. She was a talented artist, but also a woman haunted by shadows. People feared and admired her at the same time. There were rumors about her connection to the supernatural. "Are you talking about witchcraft?" Clara asked, her heart racing. "I'm not sure I'd call it that. The truth is, Isadora was involved in something bigger than anyone could understand, and when things took a dark turn, many accused her unjustly," Donna Alice said, her voice now almost a whisper. Clara felt a knot forming in her stomach. "And what happened to her?" Her grandmother took a deep breath, as if preparing for a revelation. "She disappeared. No one knows for sure what happened. But the painting, it was left behind, and with it, all the secrets surrounding her life." "Secrets? I feel like the painting is alive, Grandma. Sometimes it seems like it changes, like Isadora's expression reflects what I'm feeling," Clara confessed, her voice trembling slightly. Donna Alice looked at Clara with concern. "You need to be careful, my dear. Some things should not be unearthed. The past can be much darker than we imagine." Clara couldn't ignore the feeling that Isadora was calling out to her, that there was something deep and vital in her story. "But I need to know, Grandma. I can't stay here without understanding." Donna Alice sighed, her eyes full of sadness. "If you truly wish to follow this path, you must be prepared for what you will find. The truth can be a heavy burden." With that, Clara felt a mix of fear and determination. The painting was calling to her, and she was willing to face the secrets of her family, even if it meant unearthing truths that might be better left hidden. As she left the kitchen, she already knew that the journey had only just begun, and that Isadora's fate was somehow intertwined with her own. As she walked back to the attic, Clara could feel a wave of energy pulsing through her veins. The painting awaited her, and now, more than ever, she was determined to uncover the mysteries hidden behind those vibrant colors and shifting expressions. Night fell over New Orleans, and the air was thick with a mixture of heat and humidity, typical of the city. Clara, still shaken by the revelation that the woman in the painting was identical to her, couldn't rest. The image of the woman with deep, piercing eyes wouldn't leave her mind. What did it mean? She turned in bed, pulling the blanket over her body, but the discomfort persisted. The whispers of the house seemed more intense that night, as if the walls were holding secrets that clamored to be heard. In the midst of a restless sleep, Clara was invaded by a vivid nightmare. The woman from the painting stood before her, surrounded by a dense, dark mist. Her lips moved, but the sound that came from them was only a distant whisper, a call that seemed to echo in the depths of her mind. Clara felt a force pulling her, as if the woman was trying to reach her soul. "Clara, you need to help me," the woman murmured, her eyes shining with a tone of despair. Clara woke abruptly, her heart racing, and the image of the woman still dancing in her vision. The next morning, Clara decided she needed to understand more about the connection she had with the painting. She got out of bed, still with the feeling of the nightmare fresh in her mind, and ran to the attic. The smell of dust and history lingered in the air, and Clara began rummaging through the old boxes in search of clues. It was then that she found a small wooden box, dusty, with an old photo inside. As she cleaned the surface, her heart stopped for a moment. It was the same woman from the painting, but now in a black and white photo, with a soft smile and a look that seemed to know more than it showed. "It can't be," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "How are you identical to me?" She took the photo to the kitchen, where her grandmother was preparing breakfast. Her grandmother, wearing her floral apron, turned to her granddaughter, and seeing Clara's expression, immediately realized something was wrong. "Clara, what happened?" her grandmother asked, putting the spoon aside. "Look at this," Clara exclaimed, handing the photo to her grandmother. "Who is this woman? She is identical to me." Her grandmother hesitated, her hands trembling slightly as she accepted the photo. Clara noticed the shadow that crossed her grandmother's face, as if a bitter memory had been evoked. "She was a friend of the family, dear. A very special woman." "Special? She seems more than that. She's identical to me, Grandma," Clara insisted, her curiosity and anxiety showing in her voice. "Why did you never tell me about her? What happened to her?" "It's not an easy story to tell," her grandmother said, looking away. "She went through many difficulties. Some of them still haunt us." Clara was not satisfied with this evasive answer. "Please, Grandma, I need to know. What happened to her? Why was she in the painting?" Her grandmother sighed, finally sitting down at the table. Her name was Isadora. She was a strong woman, but also very persecuted. People feared her and accused her of terrible things. "Accused of what?" Clara asked, the unease inside her growing. "Of witchcraft," her grandmother replied, her voice almost a whisper. "And that's why she disappeared. What happened to Isadora is still a mystery to all of us." Clara felt a chill down her spine. The connection between her and Isadora seemed to intensify with every moment. The idea that the woman might have been unjustly accused made her question her own reality. "I need to know more," Clara decided, determined. "I need to understand what happened to her." "You shouldn't get involved, Clara," her grandmother warned with a serious look. Some things are better left in the past. But Clara had already made up her mind. The connection with Isadora was strong, and she wouldn't rest until she uncovered the secrets surrounding her story. The painting was calling to her, and Clara could not ignore what was destined to be discovered. Clara sat in the small office of her grandparents' house, surrounded by piles of dusty books and yellowed photographs. The smell of aged paper mixed with the sweet, heavy aroma of jasmine growing in the garden outside. The afternoon light filtered through the window, illuminating her face as she leafed through the diary she had found. The words, written in elegant but trembling handwriting, seemed to echo the feelings of a woman who had lived in dark times, a woman Clara now knew was her ancestor. "She was accused of witchcraft," Clara murmured, unable to contain the indignation growing inside her. "How could they do this to someone who, from what I've read, only wanted to help people?" Anger boiled in her veins, and she longed to understand the injustice that covered her family's history like a dense fog. As she thought, she heard the sound of a picture frame falling to the floor, followed by an almost inaudible whisper that seemed to resonate through the walls. Clara jumped and looked around, her heart racing. "Is anyone there?" she asked, her voice echoing in the silence of the room. No one answered, but the air felt heavier, laden with a strange energy. Determined to find out more, Clara got up and went to the living room, where her grandmother was sitting in an armchair, covered with a crocheted blanket. Her grandmother's gaze was distant, lost in memories Clara wanted to unravel. "Grandma, "Can I talk to you about the woman in the painting?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Her grandmother looked at her, narrowing her eyes. "Clara, I hesitated to tell you the truth, but maybe it's time for you to know. The woman in the painting, her name was Isadora. She was one of our ancestors, and yes, she was accused of witchcraft. But why? What happened to her?" Clara sat down next to her grandmother, holding her hand. "Isadora was a healer," her grandmother began, her voice full of sorrow. "She helped the community, but in times of fear and ignorance, any difference was seen as a threat. Envy and fear led people to accuse her. She disappeared one night, and many believe her soul remained trapped in this world, seeking justice." Clara felt a chill down her spine. "So, do you think she's trapped in the painting? As if it were a portal to the past?" Her mind spun with possibilities. "I don't know, dear," her grandmother replied, her eyes filled with tears. "But there is a connection. The painting has always been a part of our family, and every time we look at it, we feel something different, as if Isadora is trying to communicate." A new whisper echoed through the room, and Clara quickly turned, her heart pounding. "What was that?" she asked, her voice shaky. Her grandmother looked around, her expression worried. "Perhaps she is manifesting," her grandmother said, almost in a whisper. "Maybe she is asking for help." Clara felt a wave of determination. "I need to do something. I need to find a way to free her." The idea that her ancestor was trapped, crying out for help, would not leave her in peace. "I'll look for more information. Something in this diary must give us a clue." Her grandmother nodded slowly, as if weighing the weight of the words. "Be careful, Clara. The past can be dangerous, and some truths are hard to bear." "I know, but I can't ignore this," Clara replied, the passion burning in her chest. "If Isadora really needs me, I can't just stand by." With a new purpose, Clara decided she would visit the local library the next day, a place full of records and stories that could unravel more about her ancestor. As she stood up, the house seemed to whisper again, as if Isadora herself was there, watching, waiting. Clara felt a shiver. "I'll help you, Isadora, I promise," she murmured to herself. As she walked away, the painting in the living room seemed to glow faintly, as if recognizing the young woman's determination. Clara knew she was just at the beginning of a journey that would lead her to deep truths, unsolved mysteries, and perhaps even the liberation of a soul that had long awaited justice. Clara was determined to uncover the mysteries surrounding the painting and the woman who inhabited it. With the diary in hand, she read the instructions for the ritual carefully, which promised to free the soul of the one who had been unjustly condemned. The sky over New Orleans was covered in heavy clouds, and the light breeze that blew seemed to carry whispers from the past. It was the right time to act. She decided to perform the ritual in the living room of her grandparents' house, a space that, while carrying the nostalgia of family, also pulsed with a strange energy since the painting had arrived. Clara arranged all the necessary elements: a white candle, a handful of salt, some wildflowers she had picked from the garden, and a glass of water. Each item had a meaning, and she was determined to follow every step to the letter. "Clara, are you okay? What are you doing?" Her grandmother's voice cut through the silence, and Clara turned, a little startled. Her grandmother's expression was one of concern, but also curiosity. "I'm trying to help the woman in the painting, Grandma. I feel like she needs me," Clara replied, her voice trembling but firm. Her grandmother hesitated, her eyes lost in the painting for a moment. "I'm not sure this is a good idea, dear. You don't know what might happen. But I can't just stand by. She has suffered so much, and I'm the only one who can do something," Clara insisted, her determination burning like the flame of the candle she had lit. Her grandmother took a deep breath, the sadness in her gaze mingling with silent pride. "If you truly wish to do this, then I can't stop you. But remember, Clara, some truths can be painful." With a nod from her grandmother, Clara continued. She positioned herself in front of the painting, her heart racing as she recited the words of the ritual. As her voice echoed through the room, a sensation of cold swept through the environment. The candles flickered, and the air seemed to vibrate with palpable energy. The painting began to glow intensely, and Clara felt a wave of heat and cold simultaneously. It was as if the woman's soul was manifesting. Suddenly, a vision took over her mind. Clara saw the woman in the painting in a field of flowers, her face marked by sadness and despair. She was surrounded by shadows, familiar faces watching her with disdain. "You need to help me." The woman's voice sounded clear as day, resonating in her mind. "The truth needs to be revealed. I was unjustly accused and condemned by those who feared my light." "Who are they?" Clara asked, her heart pounding with anxiety. "How can I help?" "The same ones who manipulate history, who hide in the shadows of our family. They fear what I could have been, what you could become," the woman replied, her eyes shining with an intensity Clara had never seen before. Clara felt a renewed determination. "I will find out the truth. I will free you and end this pain." At that moment, a sharp noise interrupted the connection. The painting began to tremble, and Clara felt a heavy presence in the room. "No, it's not time," the woman shouted, her image beginning to fade. "Wait," Clara pleaded, but the vision dissipated, leaving her alone in the room, with her heart racing and her mind buzzing with questions. She turned to her grandmother, who watched with a mix of concern and hope. "Grandma, I saw her. She was calling to me, and I know the truth is connected to our family. We need to find out who the shadows around her are." Her grandmother slowly nodded. "We must proceed with caution, Clara. The past has deep claws, and the secrets can be more dangerous than we imagine." "We can't be afraid. We have to face this together," Clara exclaimed, feeling a new strength within her. "Then let's investigate. We can start with the family records. There might be clues about what happened to her." Her grandmother smiled. The determination reflected in Clara's eyes encouraged her. Clara knew the path ahead would be filled with revelations and challenges, but she was ready. The connection she felt with the woman in the painting was now unbreakable. The search for the truth was just beginning, and Clara would not rest until the shadows of the past were dispelled once and for all. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the pressure in the air as she prepared to face what was to come. The back room of her grandparents' house, where the painting now shone brighter than ever before, was bathed in an ethereal glow that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her heart. The figure of the woman on the canvas seemed more alive than ever, her piercing eyes fixed on Clara, waiting for the resolution she had promised. "I can't believe all this is real," Clara murmured to herself as her hands trembled slightly. She turned to her friends, Lucas and Sophia, who had accompanied her on this journey. Lucas, with his tousled hair and a determined expression, held an old diary Clara had found, while Sophia, with her calm and serene demeanor, looked at the painting with a mix of fascination and apprehension. "Are we ready for this?" Sophia asked, her voice soft but firm. "This revelation could change everything for us." "Yes, we need to do this," Clara replied, her voice rising in confidence. "This woman deserves the truth, and so do we. We can't let the secrets of our family continue to haunt us." With a nod, Lucas opened the diary and read aloud a passage describing a confrontation ritual. Clara felt a chill down her spine as she realized that what she was about to do could reveal truths she wasn't entirely prepared to accept. "Listen, we need to focus. If what the diary says is true, the real culprit is closer than we think." "You're talking about your great-uncle, aren't you?" Sophia asked, her eyes widening as she realized the gravity of the situation. "He's always been behind everything, manipulating the family's history to protect himself," Clara replied, her heart racing. "He's the only one who could have an interest in keeping the secrets buried." With the plan in mind, the three headed to the room where the painting was displayed. Clara approached the canvas, feeling the vibrant energy emanating from it. "Let's do this," she said, taking the lead. "Her soul deserves peace." As Clara pronounced the words of the ritual, the atmosphere in the room changed. The painting's glow intensified, and a gentle breeze swept through the space, as if the house itself was breathing. She felt the presence of the woman, the ancestor who had been unjustly condemned, and the connection between them grew stronger. "Show us the truth," Clara invoked, looking into the woman's eyes in the painting. "Help us reveal who was truly responsible for your suffering." The painting began to tremble, and a wave of light enveloped Clara. She saw flashes of memories, scenes from a distant past that revealed a story of betrayal and injustice. Clara and her friends were now in a trance-like state, immersed in a collective vision that took them to a crucial event, the moment when her great-uncle had manipulated the evidence that led to the woman's condemnation. "He did it to protect his own secrets," Lucas shouted, realizing the connection. "He was always afraid that the truth would come out." With this revelation, Clara felt her determination grow inside her. "We need to confront him now. He can't escape the consequences of his actions." As they made their way to the great-uncle's house, Clara felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Whatever happened next, she knew she couldn't back down. When they arrived, Clara knocked on the door firmly. The man, slightly older and with a shrewd look, opened the door, surprised to see the three of them. "What are you doing here?" he asked, the suspicion evident in his voice. "We came to talk about the painting," Clara said, her voice firm. "About what you did. It's time for the truth to come out." The man hesitated, realizing that her determination was not something he could ignore. "What do you mean by that?" "You know very well what I'm talking about," Clara insisted, stepping forward. "The woman in the painting. Her story. Her ruined life." Her great-uncle's eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about, Clara. That was a long time ago, and it has nothing to do with you." "It has everything to do with me," Clara shouted, the weight of the truth pressing on her. "It's my story too, and I won't let you keep it hidden any longer." The tension in the air was palpable, but Clara felt that she was finally on the right path. The scene in the painting was not just a work of art. It was a testament to her ancestors' struggle, and now, the chance to free her and herself from the shackles of the past. The weight of the truth was about to be revealed, and with it, freedom could finally be attained.